Hello, my name is Arian Patel, and this is my final project video for Management 16. This course is taught by Professor Harold Buchanan, and the due date for this assignment is June 7th, 2026. So for the ethical dilemma, I chose to interview my father. And my father, Mrinal Patel, is a partner at Moss Adams LLP, which is an accounting firm in Los Angeles. He's been there since 2000 and he still works there till this day. However, in 2012, there were issues involving the company that caused other partners in the firm to boycott the company, leave it, and start their kind of own new company or own new accounting firm. My father decided to join with them, and we moved to Rancho Palos Verdes from Los Angeles for that year that he was with them. While he was working at his new firm, he noticed that there were many changes in working conditions and work culture and mutual respect that the colleagues had for each other. He would see the way the workers would treat each other was quite insane and inhumane in some ways. There was like absolutely despicable behavior happening in the company where people would pee on each other's work chairs or they would draw photos on top of like there'd be portraits of our family in my dad's office and they would be drawing on top of that. And there's also extreme gossip and just hatred throughout this company. My father only worked here for a year, and towards the end of that year, he was offered a partner position within this law firm where he would acquire a $1.2 million salary, which was significantly higher than the salary he was already working or that he was already making. And this was the salary he would have been offered at his old company as a partner. And while he was being offered this new job, his old company also was offering his job back. And so that's kind of the like dilemma my father was facing was whether to work for this new company, make about double than what he's making now, but work in a much hostile work environment, or go back and work for his old company for less. The ethical issues that my dad was kind of facing was whether the significant pay increase was worth the hostile and unethical working conditions that this firm facilitated. And these questions my father specifically said was going through his mind, which how much would our family be affected by this pay increase, or how much would my family be hurt by the mistreatment of my father and ultimately them by these other colleagues. The stakeholders in this ethical kind of conundrum would be my father, my father, my family, or his family, which it contains me, my sister, and my mom, his fellow future partners at this new firm, the rest of the employees at the new firm, partners from his old company, and the rest of the employees from the old company. And I would situate those two, even though they're all employees for one firm, because partners kind of develop a more personal relationship and they handle more. Accounts and whatnot. So my dad's kind of closer than that to them than that he would be to like the rest of the lower down employees. Potential consequences, I kind of divided them into two different sectors based on the choices he would kind of could make. So if my dad chose to take the position as a partner in the new firm, he would have an increase of salary, which would give him much more financial freedom and he'd be able to provide for us even more. However, he would also have to deal with the unethicality and take responsibility for the unethicality of this firm. And also the mental toll that these workers put on him was quite deep, and that's something he would have to deal with. And if my dad accepted his old job, we would have to move back home to Simi Valley where we're from. He would have a decrease in his pay, and this would ultimately result in a less financial stability and freedom. And also when you're at a bigger firm, which was his old firm, you're kind of thought of it has a larger workload and you're kind of thought of less a little bit. The obligations. So my father had the moral obligation to continue working at this company because my father really values loyalty. My father also had the moral obligation to his family to not subject us to this environment that this company was kind of forcing us under. My father also had the moral obligation to work at his old company because he felt that he should have stayed loyal to them in the first place, and he did feel a little bit bad for that. Um, in considering my father's character and integrity and his morality, he overall is extremely hardworking and dedicated to whatever he's given. He's the type of person that whenever an assignment is put upon him, he'll do it without complaint, no matter how he's being treated. He's extremely loyal to work-wise, so leaving or switching companies made it him feel extremely like abandoning or that he was abandoning, no matter how much or how badly they were treating him. My father also, but overall, like above all, my dad believes in the fair treatment of employees and especially clients and doing ethical work by them, which ultimately guided his decision. My father, couple actions that my father thought about taking that were a bit more out of the box, I guess, were he actually thought of confronting his fellow work colleagues about the workplace environment. And he also thought about working or quitting big time um, accounting as a whole and working for something a bit smaller and individualistic. And then my father's guy told him to work for his old company. And I think he said what really drove this was like familiarity and the fact that he knew what this company would entail and he knew that the company would treat him right. So ultimately, that did guide his decision to quit this job that offered a lot more money and work for his old company. And it did pay off. He still is with them and he's making more than what he would have been offered at this new company. And he's being treated much better. Thank you so much.